Bitcoin is either the biggest shift to our financial system in hundreds, if not thousands of years, or it's a worthless scam. So which is it? I break it down right now.
Bitcoin will hit $50,000.
It's a scam.
Bitcoin is bigger than the internet, bigger than the Industrial Revolution.
It's one of the crazier speculative things.
If you truly understand the chess moves of decentralizing everything, well then the whole damn world's on call.
Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more videos just like this one. Yeah, that's videos of me sitting on the couch talking about stuff. So everyone seems to be talking about Bitcoin.
Bitcoin.
Very few people seem to be able to explain what Bitcoin is and how it works. And while I'm not going to get into the intricacies of the technology because it really makes my brain hurt trying to understand it, let alone explain it to you guys, I'm going to break down the reasons why it's either a scam or the most consequential advancement in technology since, I don't know, electricity. Okay, so this can get really complicated and confusing because in order to understand both sides of the Bitcoin, see what I did there? We need to first have some understanding of what money is and how it actually works today. At its core, money is a way for people within a country to exchange value. So debit cards, credit cards, checks, those pieces of paper with presidents and monarchs on them, all represent a way for people to exchange value. The US dollar, the British pound, the euro, these are all currencies that are issued by the government as a way to pay debts within that country. The way this works is basically, if I'm a chicken farmer who needs bananas, but the banana farmer doesn't need chicken or eggs, then I can sell my eggs for money and then use the money to buy bananas. The money itself has no intrinsic value. It's just what the government says we have to use to pay for things in this country. This is 50 Kenyan shillings. And the guy on the back is Jomo Kenyatta, the first president of Kenya. And it's issued by the Central Bank of Kenya. But if I need cereal or I need milk for my cereal, this piece of paper is useless to me in Canada. In Kenya, I think this buys me enough milk for cereal. I don't really remember. The point is, it will not be accepted as a form of payment in this country. Over the course of history, money's taken on many forms based on what people in that society thought was valuable. So at any given point, cattle, animal skins, the Aztecs used to use cacao beans as a form of currency. Some believe that Roman soldiers were partly paid in salt, which is where we get the word salary from. And if you believe something to be of value or something that holds some value, and I'm not talking that like baby's first steps kind of valuable or a mother's love kind of valuable. I'm talking about cash in the bank kind of valuable. I'm talking about I can buy a house with this kind of valuable. Then you need a safe place to put that value where you can trust that it's not going to be stolen or tampered with. So we put our money in banks. So in 2021, most of us are still exchanging time for money, during which we're forced into social interactions with people we don't really like. So then at the end of 2 weeks, the bank where my employer keeps their money sends money to the bank where I keep my money, and then I use debit cards and Apple Pay and whatever to pay for things, during which the bank where I keep my money sends money to the bank where that store or person keeps their money. So basically the bank is acting like a middleman between you and the people and businesses you want to spend your money with. So there's a few very practical problems with this way of doing things that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are hoping to solve. One of the problems is that governments who issue money can continue to print more money, which devalues the money that you have. So think of it as like trying to store ice cubes at room temperature, and by the time you need to actually cool a drink, there's not much ice left. So the rate at which your ice is melting or your money is losing its value is called the inflation rate.
Inflation is the decline of the purchasing power of a currency.
And currently in Canada, that's sitting around 1.5 to 2% every year. And the highest interest savings account that you can get in Canada is 1.5% a year. So you're either barely breaking even or you're losing money just by putting your money in the bank every year. Which brings me to my next point, that banks are an extremely inefficient way of storing and exchanging value. The average American pays about $329 in bank fees every year. And considering that the average American only has about $500 saved in the bank, $329 is more than half your savings that you're paying every year just to keep your money in the bank. There's a lot more problems with our financial system, but at its core, we have to trust that the banks and the government are going to have your best interests in hand. But really, most of the time, it just seems like they're more incentivized to keep each other happy than to give you a better experience with your money.
Every time you see all of this stuff happening, it just reminds you that, wow, our leaders are not as trustworthy and reliable as they used to be. And so just in case, we really do need to have some kind of, insurance we can keep under our pillow that gives us some access to an uncorrelated hedge.
So after the last financial crisis of 2008, Bitcoin was created as a way to remove trust from that equation. The systems use complicated math and computers spread out around the world and all this crazy computer networking stuff that I'm not going to get into to validate transactions, to ensure money is moved efficiently and securely, which makes it really hard to forge, steal, or be fraudulent in any way.
Which means all those fees in between you and me, it can literally overthrow America and China and Russia. It's that powerful. It's a platform of trust, and we can do shit with each other and everybody else is out.
All right, so if we're keeping score now, we're talking about a global currency that can't be controlled or manipulated by governments and that could make banks obsolete. This has to be too good to be true, right? So a lot of very, very rich people have been calling Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies a scam, a bubble. So let's hear them out.
Jordan Belfort calls Bitcoin a fraud.
Worthless artificial gold.
Well, if it's not an effective means of payment, if it's not a great store of value,
It's kind of a pure greater fool theory type investment.
All you're counting on is whether the next person is going to pay you more because they're even more excited about another next person coming along.
One of the arguments is that Bitcoin is just not fast enough to be a payment platform. And that makes it very unlikely that it can succeed as a global currency. The other argument is that you can't actually buy anything with Bitcoin. And right now, that's true. You can't actually buy much with Bitcoin. I can't name a single major retailer where you can pay with Bitcoin or a single bill that I have that will allow me to pay in Bitcoin. Although PayPal has announced that it is going to allow people to make purchases with Bitcoin at some point this year. The biggest argument you'll hear is that Bitcoin has no intrinsic value. Because it's too slow, because it's not widely accepted, you can't really look at it as like a global currency, so you have to treat it like an asset. But this asset, unlike stocks who produce products that get sold and make money, doesn't produce anything. So where's the actual value in it? So it's only really valuable insofar as I'll be able to sell it to somebody else for more money later. Of all the arguments for Bitcoin being worthless, this is actually the one that scares me the most because it speaks to something that's like a core flaw within us as a species. The fact that we can get each other excited about something that looks good but has no real value or substance behind it. Like Justin Bieber. It's not about Bitcoin having no intrinsic value at all because, as I mentioned before, cash, money, US dollars, euros, they have no intrinsic value either. They're only valuable as long as people agree that they're valuable. But since that hasn't happened yet, most of the people buying Bitcoin are speculating that they'll be able to sell it for a higher price later on down the road. And then that person who's buying it is expecting to sell it for more and more and more down the road. And that goes on and on and on until eventually the whole thing comes tumbling down. If it works, everyone thinks you're a genius and you've made a ton of money. If it doesn't, then you might be the last guy standing in a game of musical chairs, which, if you've never played musical chairs, is a bad thing. So where do I stand on this? In my opinion, cryptocurrencies are going to be in some way, shape, or form a part of our future, and that part to me is undoubtable. Whether that's Bitcoin itself or some other cryptocurrency that exists or some other one that will be developed down the road is yet to be determined. But make no mistake, the banks and the government are not just going to sit by quietly while a bunch of computer science nerds completely cut them out of the loop.
There are reasons why you must have no part in what is going to happen.
Maybe I could help. You're out, Tom.
So while I don't think it's a scam, I definitely don't think it's the get-rich-quick scheme that people are trying to use it as. The technology that Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are built on is an absolute game changer. And We're just beginning to scratch the surface of what that means and what the different applications and uses of this technology are going to be in our future. So whether you're invested in Bitcoin, thinking about investing in Bitcoin, or absolutely 100% definitely not buying Bitcoin, you're taking a risk. And you're taking a risk in the same way that you're going to take a risk with any other asset. And I can't tell you whether Bitcoin is a good investment for you because it just depends on so many other things in your life. But what I can give you confidently as financial advice for you today, get out of debt. Because removing that burden from your finances is going to allow you to take some risks and make some of the changes in your life and work towards the kind of future that maybe you always envisioned for yourself. One that doesn't necessarily rely on trading time for money over a long-term period of time, and gives you the option to take some calculated risks with something like Bitcoin. I'm not an economist, I'm not a computer science guy. There's a 100% chance that I could be wrong. But I was really trying to understand what is happening with Bitcoin and really understanding the technology behind it and the impacts it could have on our society. Anyway, until next time, I hope this was helpful, guys. Peace, and we'll see you in the next video.